everybody got a sheet that wanted one? If not, head to 45. 2 more weeks. I think we're going to get 45, 46, and 47 tonight. And then, because a big chunk of 46 is just genealogy. So we'll fly through that. 47, and then 48, 49, and 50. And we will finish up with Genesis. And I think we're going to keep rolling and maybe take a week off at some point in there. And then we'll just jump back in with Exodus and at least get us through Mount Sinai. When we start going through the law, I'm like, yeah, I'm good on teaching you how to build the tabernacle. That's just fascinating Bible study right there. So we ain't going there. All right, because I like stories and I like to tell stories, and that's no fun. Numbers actually has some really good stories. Yeah, I know. We'll get there. So, all right, 45. Y'all good? Okay, so what has happened at the end of 44? Okay, Benjamin has committed a crime, right? Right? Where are we on did Benjamin commit a crime? He has been accused, but more to the point, he's been what? He's been framed, all right? This is a total setup, all right? Because Joseph wants to keep his little brother with him, all right? And he's like, if I let him go back, I may never see him again, and I want my little brother around, all right? What favors has he done for Benjamin already? Because he got to see him. That was really cool. But what has he done for him? He gave him 5 times the portion, okay? And so you can see this favoritism, but he's going back home, all right? And now Joseph doesn't want him to go back home. So he does. He plants the silver cup in there. Who's really having a difficult time with this Benjamin getting stuck here and not being able to come home? Who? Judah is. Why? He said, say it louder. He is responsible for it. He said, I will be personally accountable for him. Who is not, who's sitting back and going, it ain't going to be on me? Reuben, yeah. Even though Reuben volunteered, I will be responsible. You can kill my sons if I don't bring him back. But Jacob says, nah, you're not taking him. No. And so he's sort of been vindicated here. All right? So when Benjamin is taken and the sentence is handed down, he will be my slave forever. You guys can go back home. Who steps up in this moment? This is easy. Judah, all right? Judah, the 4th born, all right? Reuben's out because he's just a coward. Simeon and Levi are out because why? The whole Shechem killing all the people thing, all right? So it's kind of fallen to Judah to be the one who is not the favored son, but the lead son. And so we'll see that carry out throughout the rest of the chapter here. Judah steps up and asks, what does he say to Joseph initially? What's the first thing he says? Can I do what? Yeah, can I speak literally into your ear? All right? Can I speak into your ear? All right? And he makes what offer? What's the offer he makes? Real easy. I will stay in place of the boy, let him go home. Which, again, I don't think it gets more obvious of a foreshadowing than for Judah's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson, Jesus, to say, I will stay in place of me and you and all of us, and you get to go home to the Father with no wrath whatsoever. I will take the wrath for you, and he did that for us at the cross. All right? So that's why I always say Genesis 44 is probably one of the best chapters in the entire Bible because of the foreshadowing that takes place there, okay? So he's made the offer, don't let me go back. I will bring my father's gray hair down to Sheol in sorrow. How's Joseph doing? When he says, my father, his head will be brought down to Sheol in sorrow. Is there any trigger in there for Joseph? When he says, my father, who's he talking about? Jacob. And how close were Joseph and Jacob? Again, why? Rachel's son. Okay. So I think this was the tipping point in the conversation. I think Joseph has sort of a heart for this anyway. He's had essentially 9 years to get out of slavery, out of prison, into Pharaoh's court, and now I think he's ready to forgive. And I think when he says, my father, that was a tipping point. So pick up here in 45, because Judah's been sort of speaking in his ear. Joseph could no longer keep his composure or control himself, all right, in front of all of his attendants. So he cried out, kara, which means he yelled out, send everyone away from me. No one was with him when he revealed his identity to his brothers, but he wept so loudly the Egyptians heard it, and also Pharaoh's household heard it. Now, I don't know how far they were away or what. Maybe this was a rumor. Joseph is crying really bad. We don't know what's going on here, all right? And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. And what's his first question? Is my father still living? Is my father... What does that tell you about the relationship that Jacob and Joseph had? The very first thing he wants to know is what? Is dad still alive? Is dad still alive? Imagine what he's been feeling for the last 22 years. At 17, he's taken away from his father. He's now 39 years old, ballpark, all right? What's he been thinking about all this time? Imagine what my dad is experiencing. Imagine how hard this was for my dad. And now the first question he asks when he reveals himself, is my father still living? Look at their response. But they could not answer him because they were terrified in his presence. You think? Yeah. But it's funny because it doesn't seem to have sunk in. Then Joseph said to his brothers, please come near me. Because they didn't do what? If he says, please come near me, it tells you what did they not do? They didn't all run up, Joseph, I can't believe it's you. What are they doing? Would you be stepping back? I mean, it'd be like seeing a ghost, wouldn't it? Because what do they keep bringing up? They keep bringing up what? God's punishing us because what we did to Joseph 20 plus years ago. God keeps getting us. And all of a sudden, I'm Joseph. How's dad? They didn't go, he's awesome. He's going to be so happy to see you. They did what? What do we do? Seriously, what do we do here? Then Joseph said to his brothers, please come near. And they came near. I am Joseph. I love this conversation. I'm Joseph, your brother. He said, the one you sold into Egypt. It's like, oh, I remember you. I forgot we had a brother. No, I mean, because can't you see Joseph up here? He's already said it once. I'm Joseph. How's dad? And they're just freaking out. They don't. And guys, he's like, no, guys, come here. I'm really Joseph, your brother. You know the one you sold into slavery? Yeah, that's me. So I think there was a lot of just shock and awe going on here. 5. And now don't be worried or angry with yourselves for selling me here. Did that make it all better? Don't worry. Don't be angry about selling me here. Because, I mean, they're already thinking it, all right? Because God sent me ahead of you to preserve life. And in this moment, they all understood. Just like you would, right? This was God's will. Oh, whew, okay. Let's party. Let's relax. No. All right. Verse 6, for the famine has been in the land these 2 years. That's how we have sort of a time marker here. All right. So that should put Joseph at 30 when he becomes second in command. 7 years of plenty, now 2 years of famine, so 39. Okay. And there will be 5 more years without plowing or harvesting. 7, second time he says it. God sent me ahead of you to establish you as a remnant within the land and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. Therefore, it was not you who sent me here, but third time, what? God did it. Do you see our 3 times here? Remember what we say about any time that said something 3 times? It's important, all right? He has made me, watch this list, a father to Pharaoh, all right, even though he's only 39, which makes you think, what about Pharaoh? If the 39-year-old former prisoner is now a quote-unquote father, literally an Abba to him. Lord or Adonai of his entire household and ruler over the land of Egypt. This is a cool word. This is the word mashal, all right? Hebrew word mashal, which is very similar to the Hebrew word mashach, from which we get Mashiach, which means what? The Messiah or the anointed one, the one who's been put in a position for purpose, all right? So he sees himself as, I am one who's been anointed, divinely appointed to this place by God over all the land of Egypt. Because what does he see? What did he say in 5? God sent me ahead of you to do what? To preserve life, all right? To establish you as a remnant and to keep you alive through a great deliverance, okay? Genesis 15, what's the promise? The promise is, I'll give you land, I'll give you offspring. What's the sign that God gives to Abraham? 400 years, you will be a stranger in this land. You will be enslaved and oppressed, not for 400 years, but for a portion of that, all right? I will judge the nations that did that to you, and you will plunder all of their goods. And in the 4th generation, I will bring you back here. Joseph sees himself as sort of the mediator, the life raft in the midst of this moment, that God brought him here to this place so that they could be saved. And we talked about preserving the line of Abraham. If Joseph is not sold into slavery, if they don't get forewarning, if Joseph doesn't do his job, everybody dies in the famine. But Joseph was that sort of lifesaver, that link in there to continue the line of David. And so we get this idea of the ruler, the mashal. In Micah 5:2, y'all know Micah 5:2? O Bethlehem, a ruler will come from you. Same word. A mashal, a divinely inspired, anointed person will come and be there for this, obviously a picture of Christ, okay? 9, so here's the plan. Ready? Return quickly to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says. Your dead son, right? Remember? Okay? God has made me Lord, Adonai, of all Egypt. Come down to me without delay. You can settle in the land of Goshen. Okay? Now we're going to get Goshen a lot. Okay? Goshen is just a portion of Egypt, supposedly very nice. Okay? All right? And be near me, you, your children, grandchildren, your sheep, your cattle, and all you have. There I will sustain you, for there will be 5 more years of famine. Otherwise, your household and everything you have will become destitute. Look, your eyes and my brother Benjamin's eyes can see. It is I, Joseph. Okay? How many times has he said this now? 3rd time. He's like, no, seriously, it really is me. I don't know if you're getting this yet, but it is me who am speaking. 13, tell my father about all my glory in Egypt, my kabod, my weight, the heaviness of me, and all what you have seen, and bring my father here quickly. Then Joseph threw his arms around Benjamin and wept, because we're not sure if Benjamin is in the room at the moment, because where has he been? Remember the setting? All right? The brothers are there. Benjamin, you'll be the slave forever. We don't know if he's been taken away. Judah, let me speak to you in your ear. Joseph loses it, starts going, do this, and we don't know if Benjamin's in the room or if he's been brought back in. But throws his arms around Benjamin and wept. Benjamin wept on his shoulder. Joseph kissed each of his brothers. That'd be interesting, right? How are they receiving this? Oh, love it, brother. We didn't mean it. We're sorry. It's all good, right? All right? Kissed each of his brothers as he wept, and afterward his brothers talked with him. All right? Simple word right there, just spoke with him. Okay? So that's a start. 16. When the news reached Pharaoh's palace, Joseph's brothers have come. Pharaoh and his servants were pleased. It's the word for grace there. It was happy, kara. Pharaoh said to Joseph, tell your brothers, do this. Load your animals and go on back to the land of Canaan. Get your father and your family and come back to me. I'll give you the best land in Egypt. You can eat from all the riches of the land. You are also commanded, do this. Take wagons. All right. Now that word wagons, I think we get sort of a country western movie kind of thing with the wagon. And so if I can ride in the back of a wagon from Canaan, that'd be awesome. It's sort of the idea of more of a carriage. Okay. So don't go full-on flatbed wagon here. Think carriage. What would Pharaoh give to Joseph so that he could transport his father? Just think about that for a second. Would it be a flatbed wagon with a couple of horses pulling it? No, it's going to be something nice. Okay, so when you see wagon, don't go country, a Western, rifleman kind of thing. All right. Take wagons from the land of Egypt for your young children and your wives and bring your father here. Look at 20, though. Do not be concerned about your belongings, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours. What's he saying? Do not be concerned about your belongings, for the best of the land of Egypt is yours. So what should they do with their belongings? Anybody ever sold a house and went, we're just leaving all the furniture? We don't feel like packing. We don't feel like doing all that. All right, we've never experienced that because we've always said, we got to have this furniture, okay? So get the U-Haul, get all that stuff. We did sell a lot before we moved here, all right, but not nearly enough, all right? Still have too much, all right? But you sell all your stuff. Just leave all your stuff. Just come on. All the land of Egypt will be yours in the middle of a, what? Famine. See how this is going to work out? The haves have, all right? 21, the sons of Israel did this. Joseph gave them wagons, as Pharaoh had commanded, and he gave them provisions for the journey. He gave each of the brothers changes of clothes, all right? Which is pretty nice, because how many changes of clothes do you normally have if you're living, 1,800 years before Christ is born? Not a lot. So they gave changes of clothes. But he gave Benjamin not only 5 times the portion of food, but 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of clothes. He sent his father the following: 10 donkeys carrying the best products of Egypt, 10 female donkeys carrying grain, food provisions for his father on the journey. So Joseph sent his brothers on their way, and as they were leaving, he said to them what? Don't argue on the way. Now, that sounds like something Ashley and I would say if we were sending Court and Caden somewhere. Do not fight on the way. Do not do this. I mean, a lot of y'all have kids, okay? You go, hey, no fighting, all right? So then you just got the one. He can't fight by himself, and trust me, it's coming. Oh, it's so coming. It's so coming, all right? Just the battles. My brother and I used to like wrestling match in the back seat of the car, all right? So my parents were constantly going, quit fighting. I'm pulling this car over. And didn't I pull the car over here, Ashley? We were like coming in view of a call, and I'm like next to Sam, and the boys were fighting, doing something stupid, and I pull over into that Midas oil change place that's been closed since we moved here. I pull in there, I open the car door, the driver's side door, and I'm just giving it to the boys right there on the feeder road, and I'm like, this is going to be good. I'll totally get the vote now because I'm just wearing the boys out. Why? Because they're arguing and fighting and driving me crazy. What would they have to argue about? Why would Joseph say, don't argue, quarrel? This is a word for quarrel, all right? Don't quarrel on the way home. What could they possibly argue about? Their treatment. What would be the argument? Kind of play out the argument here. Who's the loudest? Yeah, but they kind of said, we don't know what happened to him. We just found the robe. Is Joseph going to rat him out? Yeah. Do you play that game? Who's the loudest? Which of the brothers is the loudest if they are arguing, which they were told not to do, which they're going to anyway? Amen? Parents? Benjamin? You think Benjamin would be the one that argues? Benjamin wasn't even there. Or, now, his argument may be, I had nothing to do with this. This is so on you guys. You did what to my brother? I mean, this may be the first time Benjamin's ever heard of any of this. All right? You never know. I mean, why would you tell Benjamin? Because Benjamin's going to immediately do what? Go tell dad, okay? Because he's a bratty little kid. All right? Is Reuben going to argue? He is a coward. Is he gonna stay on the "I told you so" line? Yeah. Judah? I think Judah's gonna be real quiet. Because he's a middle child? Yeah. Yeah. I think he's gonna be real quiet. Because number one, he's kind of the leader of the bunch now, and he's totally guilty because it was his idea. And I think he's just going to be real quiet the rest of the way. So it's a funny line that theologians actually argue over. What does this actually mean? Don't be anxious on the way. Yeah, this word's hard to define. Quarrel, strife, anxiety, all of these things. Don't be anxious on the way. All right. 25. So they went up from Egypt, because you always go up toward Jerusalem, if you ever hear that. Okay. Came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. Now, again, remember to learn how to pause. So they come to dad. Again, could their argument have been, what do we say? Yeah, all right. They said Joseph is still alive. And he is ruler, mashal, all right, the same word, all right, over all the land of Egypt. And I don't know, I don't know, the sheet says Jacob was stunned. Any of you have anything different? His heart became numb. Yeah, this is the word, it's the word leb, which means heart, all right? So his heart became faint. In a good way, you might say, my heart did what? Skipped a beat, all right? If that's a good thing. I was so excited, my heart skipped a beat. Think of that in sort of I almost had a heart attack. I mean, imagine the shock of this moment. Joseph is still alive, and he's ruler over the land of Egypt. Did you ever in a million years think you would hear those words? A, he's still alive, and B, he's now the ruler of Egypt. Didn't see that coming 22 years ago, all right? Like the kid, think he's a good kid, but ruler of Egypt, all right. And he was stunned. His heart literally grew faint, all right? So it's an interesting phrase. For he did not what? He didn't believe them. So what did he believe about what they were saying? Is this like a joke? Does anybody think this is funny? You walk back in, you go, hey, Dad, Joseph is still alive and he's ruler of Egypt. Really? No, he's still dead. That's like the worst joke ever. I mean, he just doesn't believe them. What's going through his head, though? Is it just so incredible that it's just incredulous that this could possibly be, and I don't believe you? I mean, seriously, what does he think they're doing? Or is it just simply, you're saying it and you believe it, but I'm not going to believe it? Does he not want to believe it? Doesn't he want to believe it? That his Joseph is still alive? And how cool is it that he's ruler of Egypt? What happens if he gets his hopes up? What if he believes it and it's not true? 22 years of grieving, and now you just got the hope, and then it's dashed again. Imagine what you would do. 27. But when they told Jacob all that Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the wagons, the carriage that Joseph had sent to transport him, the spirit of their father was revived. Literally, in the Greek, it's the word pyro. We get fire, flame. His spirit was revived or inflamed. All right, that his spirit woke up, essentially. Then Israel said, enough, great. My son Joseph is still alive. I will go to see him before I die in 17 years. Because they're very dramatic with the whole dying thing. Remember Isaac? Come, bring me food before I die. 80 years later, okay? Literally 80 years later, okay? Okay, 46. Israel set out with all that he had and came to Beersheba, and he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. That night God spoke to Israel in a vision. Jacob, Jacob, he said. Now, I don't know if all of you have been around, we've talked about this before. What happens when you use the name twice? It's a term of endearment. Good. All right? Think about some of the times in the Bible where a person's name is used twice. Can you think of any? Benny, what were you saying? Yeah. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Now, most of you have heard that in what tone? A chastising. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? No, it's not at all. It's a term of endearment. All right? Who else? What else? Martha, Martha, why are you worried about stuff? Mary's chosen better. Can you get me another? Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I long to take you under my wing, but you would not have it. Anybody got another? Okay, Simon, Simon. It's the same thing. Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you like wheat, but I've prayed for you that you will return and lead them, all right, essentially. David says the words, Absalom, Absalom, how I wish I could trade places with you now that you're dead because you've died in battle opposing me. Absalom, Absalom, just the heart of the father, even though Absalom was trying to kill him. You see what we're doing here? So when God speaks to Jacob, 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 his term of endearment, he said, and Jacob replied, here I am. And God said, I am God, the God of your father. Don't be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. Okay? So what's the promise? The promise is you'll be a great nation, but I'm going to turn you into it down here. So don't be afraid to go. For our key word, I will go down, what? With you. Emmanuel, God with us. I will be with you down to Egypt. And I will also bring you back. Joseph will put his hands on your eyes. What does that mean? It will put his hands on your eyes. Why does he use this phrase, hands on your eyes? Say it again. It's a presence, okay. I think it's a little more literal. Okay. So think about this. When someone dies, it's really creepy when people die with their eyes open. So please, if you die near me, close your eyes so I don't. Because what do you have to do with the person who, Susan, you should know this. What's going on with the eyeballs that won't close when they die? I mean, I guess you're dead, and so is there a nerve or a muscle or something that just doesn't work anymore? Essentially, am I right? Okay, good. All right, because I didn't want to be like weird. All right, but he says what? He will close your eyes, which means what? Joseph is going to close your eyes with his hands, which means who's going to be with you when you die? Your son, Joseph. Your beloved son is going to be with you. So all the pain you've been through, guess what? I'm going to bring it all full circle. And not only should you not be afraid to go, because I'm going to make you into a great nation, but I'm going to bring you back to this place where he's actually going to be buried along with his grandfather, grandmother, father in their burial plot, all right? But Joseph is going to be the one that closes your eyes. Beautiful, beautiful saying right there. So Jacob left Beersheba. The sons of Israel took their father Jacob in the wagons, the carriages, and Pharaoh had sent to carry him along with the children and the wives, and they took their cattle and possessions they acquired in the land of Canaan. Now, are they supposed to do that? What did Pharaoh tell them? Just leave it. I will take care of you. Who would then be making Jacob into a very wealthy man? Would it be God who is blessing him and making him great and blessing him? It would be Pharaoh. He says, no. God has blessed me. God will continue to bless me. I will receive God's blessing, not yours. All right? Just, that's my inference, so you can take that for what it's worth. Then Jacob and all his children went with him to Egypt, his sons, grandsons, his daughters, granddaughters, indeed all his offspring, his seed, the promised offspring, he brought with him to Egypt. These are the names of the Israelites. All right, you can see Reuben's sons, Simeon's sons, Levi's sons, Judah's sons. Which of Judah's sons is going to carry on the line of Christ? Do you remember? Perez, who had just a very wholesome upbringing and birth and everything, correct? You want to have some fun? Look through the line of Jesus and find the dysfunctional family moments in the line of Jesus. All right? How was Perez born? How was he conceived? We'll ask that. Mama, Tamar, was married to the first son and the second son. All right? They were both killed. So Judah's holding on to the other, wouldn't marry him. So Tamar does what? Dresses up like a what? A prostitute. It says, Judah, come sleep with me. And we get sort of the blue dress moment going on there. And all of a sudden, now we have the line of Christ running through this act of prostitution, which later on we're going to get Rahab in the mix, which means what? We get some interesting characters in this thing, okay? Issachar's, Zebulun's, these are Leah's sons. You can see there were 33 in all. Gad and Asher, sons of Zilpah, 16 of them. The sons of Jacob's wife Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. And you see Joseph's first two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, who were born to him in the land of Egypt. 21 Benjamin, and you see all of his sons. These were Rachel's sons, 14 persons in all. Dan's and Naphtali's, the sons of Bilhah, for a total of 7 of those. All right. 26 is the total number of persons belonging to Jacob, his direct descendants, not including the wives of Jacob's sons, who came to Egypt, was 66. Joseph's sons were born to him in Egypt, 2 persons. All those of Jacob's household who had come to Egypt was 70 persons. Little controversy here with this idea of 70 persons. In some of our later copies of the Masoretic text has the number 70 in here. Now, these Masoretic texts were early 400s AD, all right? The controversy comes because when Stephen is telling the Old Testament 101 history, right before he is stoned, he gives the number 75, okay? So some people go, see, you can't trust the New Testament because it says 70 here, but it was really 75. Okay, but that 70 number comes from a text that's 400 AD. Okay? Stephen is taking the number from the Septuagint, which is 200 BC, when he speaks of it in Acts 7. Does that make sense? So a lot of people say the Septuagint has the number 75, where the Masoretic text and the later text have 70. So Stephen was actually using an older translation of the Bible, which is probably more accurate. So don't get in the weeds of that. I just wanted to let you know there is a controversy about that, but it's easily explained away. So don't let anybody bait you on that one. 28, now Jacob had sent Judah. Now why is Jacob sending Judah ahead to prepare for his arrival at Goshen? Why Judah? Why not Reuben? Why not Simeon? Why not Levi? Again, what's happened in the family dynamic? Judah has ascended to be the responsible one, the one that Jacob trusts now. When they, all of them, came to the land of Goshen, Joseph hitched his horses to his chariots, went up to Goshen to do what? To meet his father. Joseph presented himself to him, threw his arms around him, and wept for a long time. And you got to pause right there, right? How long was that pause? How long was this long time when Joseph and Jacob finally reunite? That's a pretty cool moment right there. All right? 30 says, then Israel said to Joseph, at last I can die in 17 years, now that I've seen your face and know you are still alive. All right? What a cool moment. Man, just what an amazing moment right there. You just got to let that one sink in. 31, Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, I will go up and inform Pharaoh, telling him, my brothers and my father's household, who are in the land of Canaan, have come to me. The men are shepherds. They also raise livestock. They have brought their sheep and cattle and all they have. Again, kind of not in defiance, but just, thank you, but no thank you kind of a thing. When Pharaoh addresses you and asks, what's your occupation? You're to say, your servants, both we and our fathers, have raised livestock from our youth until now. Then you will be allowed to settle in the land of Goshen, the good herding lands, all right? Since all shepherds are abhorrent to Egyptians. Okay, we've already had this where they weren't allowed to eat with them. Now we get this, they're shepherds. Because, I mean, how often do you hear about Egyptian wool? Right? Egyptians known for their wool. Lamb chops? Ever had some good Egyptian lamb chops? I don't know. The language here, the language is kind of interesting. You could sort of switch these phrases out, that pigs are abhorrent to Israelites. It's pretty much the same language, just in a different context. So if that helps you think about it at all. So something about lamb chops, they weren't too, maybe it's the jelly, I don't know. 47. Good, we're doing well. So Joseph went and informed Pharaoh, my father and brothers with their sheep and cattle and all they own have come to the land of Canaan. They're now in the land of Goshen, all right, which again is good, just good grazing land. And we'll pick this up when we get to in Exodus, when the plagues start coming, that sometimes the plagues do not affect the Israelites living where? In the land of Goshen, okay? So I want you to just be familiar with that. 2, he took 5 of his brothers and presented them to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh asked his brothers, what is your occupation? Now, what had they been coached to say? We're shepherds, all right? That way you'll get the good land. And they said to Pharaoh, your servants, both we and our fathers, are shepherds. Then they said to Pharaoh, we have come to live in the land for a while because there is no grazing land for your servants' sheep or our sheep, since the famine in the land of Canaan has been so severe. So now please let your servants settle in the land of Goshen, which is like, oh, that's a great idea, because that's been the whole plan all along. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, now that your father and brothers have come, the land of Egypt is open before you. Settle your father and brothers in the best part of the land. They can live in the land of Goshen. If you know of any capable men among them, put them in charge of my livestock. Give them jobs. And Joseph then brought his father Jacob and presented him before Pharaoh. I like this moment. So kind of camp out here with me. Joseph then brought his father Jacob and presented him to Pharaoh. How many times had Joseph spoken about his father to Pharaoh? He says, I'm like a father to Pharaoh, right? I'm the Lord, the Adonai of his whole household. I'm the anointed ruler of all of Egypt. So do you think Joseph and Pharaoh had a relationship in which he would speak of his father? I mean, what's the first thing Pharaoh says when he hears, hey, Joseph's brothers are here? Pharaoh says what? Go get your dad. Well, why would he think that if it wasn't that they had that relationship where he said, I remember sitting around talking with my dad. My dad taught me this. How did you know this, Jacob? How did you know this, Joseph? How do you know this? My dad taught me. My dad taught me. My dad was this. My dad was this. My dad did this. I think that was just a cool relationship. So Joseph does what? As soon as he gets there, Joseph does what with Jacob, with his dad? Dad, I want you to meet Pharaoh. I want you to meet him. All right? So Joseph then brought his father Jacob and presented him to Pharaoh. Pharaoh, dad, Pharaoh. All right? And look at the next line. And Jacob, what? Blessed Pharaoh. Now, who gets to bless who? Does the lesser person bless the higher person? It's always the higher person blessing the lesser. So look at what in the world's going on here? How is Jacob in any way, shape, or form regarded as higher than Pharaoh, or in a position to speak a blessing over Pharaoh? I mean, this is what a father does to a son, all right? Remember the blessing that Jacob essentially stole from his brother? And now Jacob is now almost as if he is the father of Pharaoh, and he's speaking a blessing over him. Just a cool moment. I just like that. 8, then Pharaoh said to Jacob, how many years have you lived? Which is what we all ask, right? How old are you? Okay. Jacob said to Pharaoh, maybe this is the way you can answer this question from now on. My pilgrimage has lasted 130 years. So next time somebody asks you, how old are you? You can say what? My pilgrimage has lasted 56 years. So I'm still pilgriming, all right? My pilgrimage has lasted 130 years. My years have been few and hard. Few? 130? Have they been hard, though? Think about all Jacob has been through. He's had a rough life. I mean, it's been a roller coaster to see. Because when we read about Isaac, what do you remember about Isaac in his life? We get like 2 chapters of Isaac. He had twins. Next. Jacob, you're up. But with Jacob, you get all of the travails of his life. And they have not surpassed the years of my fathers during their pilgrimages, which is an interesting way of telling people how old you are, okay? Because Abraham lives 175 years, Isaac lives 180, and he's only at 130, all right? So he's just a young buck, right? He's only going to last 17 more years, so he's only going to hit 147. Where to go? 10. So Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Again, we get that phrase. And departed from Pharaoh's presence. Then Joseph settled his fathers and brothers in the land of Egypt, gave them property in the best part of the land of Ramses. That's an interesting phrase right there, because a lot of the times we think of Ramses as the Pharaoh when Moses comes along. And so I don't know that that's possible if we have the land of Ramses being the later Pharaoh 4 generations later. That's an odd thing for that to happen, but maybe Ramses is a fairly common name or something. As Pharaoh had commanded, and Joseph provided his father and brothers and all of his household with food for their dependents. Okay? Now, that kind of stops the story of Joseph and them, but let's keep going and finish up 47 here. But there was no food in that entire region, for the famine was very severe. In other words, the people of Egypt had run out of food. Okay? Which is okay, right? Because what? The government had taken how much of the excess of the good years? 20% of the good years have been stored away for whose benefit? Yeah, it is a great question. Just like your government takes, 6 point something percent and puts it into a secure lockbox called Social Security that y'all all look forward to getting someday? Not me, because I get to opt out as a minister. So I am a conscientious objector to the Social Security system. So I've put our money into a retirement account and not into the government, which does wonderful things with your money. Amen? So, but they took out that 20% and they kept it and put it in the city so that it would be there in the lean times. And so it's no problem, right, that there's no food in the entire region, for the famine was very severe. The land of Egypt and the land of Canaan were exhausted by the famine, all right? So you see that Egypt, but also the land of Canaan, which is why Jacob and the boys coming down was essential, all right? In 14, Joseph collected all the money to be found in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan in exchange for the grain they were purchasing, and he brought the money into whose house? Anybody getting a little queasy feeling about the government run over here in Egypt? They tax people at 20%, hold on to all the grain. When everybody runs out of grain, they go, well, give us all your money and we'll give you grain, and we'll give all the money to who? Pharaoh and his palace. How are you feeling about that citizen of Egypt thing at this point? All right? I don't know why this part of the chapter is in the Bible, but it's just like, okay, this is what the worst government possible would ever do to its citizens. All right? When the money from the land of Egypt and Canaan was all gone, and all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, give us food. Give us the food that we put away, that we gave to you for our taxes. Why should we die here in front of you? The money's all gone. And Joseph had this amazing, heartfelt moment of giving back to people. And he says what? Now that your money's all gone, I have all your money, it's in Pharaoh's palace, give me your livestock. Since all your money's gone and you got no more money, give me your livestock and I will give you food in exchange for your livestock. Yes, the food that you already gave us in the taxed amount that we've stored in your cities. Now we've taken all your money. Now we're going to take all your livestock. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and he gave them food in exchange for the horses, herds of sheep, shouldn't do that, herds of cattle, donkeys. That year he provided them with food in exchange for all their livestock. When that year was over, they came the next year and said to him, "We cannot hide from our Lord that the money is gone and that our livestock belongs to our Lord, our Adonai. There is nothing left for our Lord except what? Our land and our bodies." What did they just do? Money's gone. Our savings are all gone. Our cattle, our livestock are all yours. What's left to give? Ourself, our bodies, and our land. Now, what are all the citizens of Egypt? Slaves. And all the people of the land of Canaan as well. They've all been enslaved. So imagine this little scheme of the government. We tax you at 20% in the good times. We hold on to all of it until you have no choice but to literally sell yourself into slavery to us, and we will take care of you. We will take care of you. You won't have land, you won't have livestock, you won't have any money, but we'll take care of you. That sounds like a system of government, doesn't it? Anybody think of what that system of government might be, where the government says, we will take care of you? Exactly. You will not own anything, and you'll like it. It's a scary thought, man. But exactly what Joseph is doing here, isn't it? I mean, how that didn't end poorly for him, I'll never know. All right. Verse 19. "Why should we die here in front of you, both us and our land? Buy us and our land in exchange for food. Then we with our land will become Pharaoh's slaves. Give us seed that we can live and not die, so that the land won't become desolate." What good is seed in the middle of a famine? Nothing. 20. "In this way, Joseph acquired all the land in Egypt for" who? Pharaoh. "Because every Egyptian sold his field, since the famine was so severe for them. The land became Pharaoh's, and Joseph moved the people to the cities from one end of Egypt to the other." Why move them to the cities? Now you can control them. All right? So you put them in high-rises and apartments and say, this is where you live now, and here's your job, and here's what you will do. And Pharaoh, the representative of the people, will own all the money in the land. Again, not sure why this chapter's in the Bible, but it really gives you a good picture of some government systems. The only land that he didn't acquire was the priest portion, for it was given to them by Pharaoh. They lived off the rations Pharaoh had given them. Therefore, they did not sell their land. So we have what happened to the separation of church and state. If you want to control the people, you must control the priesthood, which is what we see all over Europe. You see the kings aligning themselves with who? The Pope. All right? All over Europe. All right? We see this combination. And so what has Pharaoh done? I'm going to keep the priest happy, because the priest will do what with the people? The priests have command over who? The hearts and minds of the people. So if the priest can go, you must obey Pharaoh. You must obey and do what he says. Or else, what happens? So does the Pharaoh need to keep the priests happy? There's an alliance here, which is why, what do we have in the United States? We have the separation of what? Church and state, so they can't play off each other. They can't do that, all right? That's why it's so important, okay? And if you want to read my thesis on that, I'll have it available, and you can put yourself to sleep with that real quick. It's only 89 pages. So, yeah. Anyway, my dad's very proud of that, but it will put you to sleep. Okay, 23, then Joseph said to the people, understand today that I have acquired you and your land for Pharaoh. Here's your seed for you. Sow it in the land. At harvest, you are to do what? What do you get to do when you have a harvest? Give me my fifth or 20%. Okay? Because they're now what, essentially? They're tenant farmers. All right? You can do that. make as much as you want in this famine, but you're going to have to give me a fifth of everything. 4/5 will be yours as the seed for the field and as food for yourselves, your household, and your dependents. And they said, you have saved our lives. Yeah, because the priest will say what if you don't say that, all right? We have found favor in our Lord's eyes and will be Pharaoh's slaves. You'll have nothing and you'll like it. So Joseph made it a law, still in effect today in the land of Egypt, as Moses is writing this 4 to 5 generations later, all right? That a fifth of the produce belongs to Pharaoh. Only the priest's land does not belong to Pharaoh. 27, Israel, Jacob, settled in the land of Egypt in the region of Goshen. They acquired property in it and became fruitful and very numerous, which is where we kind of skip and we're kind of fast forwarding to Exodus 1. Now, Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, and his lifespan was 147 years. And when the time drew near for him to die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, if I have found favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh. We saw that earlier. And promise me, make a promise to me, swear an oath to me, that you will deal with me in kindness and faithfulness. Do not bury me in Egypt, because God told me I would be buried somewhere else. When I rest with my fathers, carry me away from Egypt and bury me in their burial place. Which burial place is that? Not Rachel's. Abraham is going to do what with Sarah? He buys a field. All right, because he doesn't want to just take the burial place as a gift, because gifts can be what? Taken back. It was so precious to Abraham that he buried Sarah in a special place, that he bought the field and refused to let anyone just give him anything. And so what we have is Leah is going to be buried there. Rachel died near Bethlehem, so her tomb isn't near Bethlehem, but everybody else was buried in this place. And it's escaped me, Mamre, by the oaks of Mamre, all right? Joseph answered, I will do what you have asked. And Jacob said, swear to me. So Joseph swore to him. Then Israel bowed in thanks at the head of his bed. All right? And we'll stop right there for the night. Any questions? Again, not sure why 47 has all that, but just makes you mad, I think, when you see what they did with that, all the land and everything. So. All right, well, we will do 48, 49, and 50 next week. See if we can't knock this thing out. Very good? Cool. All right, let's pray. Father, thank you so much for an opportunity to look into your word, to look into your scriptures. Father, I pray that, again, we would always learn how to pause and just appreciate these moments. I appreciate just the humanity of these moments. Father, I pray that we would live in those pauses. That we would not read too quickly through this in our own lives, but that we would appreciate the moments, appreciate just the times of fellowship, the times of weeping, the times of celebrating, the times of blessing. I pray that we would see clearly all of these things in your scriptures so that we can understand and know your story. Father, I thank you for just the sovereignty that you exhibited in this story, and I pray that we would learn to appreciate it so that we would understand and know that all of this was accomplished so that you could come and become flesh and die in place of the boy. And Father, may we learn to appreciate that and worship you in that. And I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.